So. All right, so let's do a quick review. I see some new faces in here, and that's good, of where we've been and where we're going. This is apologetics. And again, apologetics is not I'm sorry that I'm a Christian. It's not apologizing. But it's from the Greek word apologia, which means a defense or well-reasoned defense. And basically it is a well-reasoned defense of Christianity. And remember, we said formally it's the doctrine or the study of the defense of Christianity. And we said that apologetics is really going to do three things for different people. And we kind of derived this from 1 Peter 3:15 that says, "Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have." And we said we're going to proclaim the same truth, but that truth is going to really act in different ways, and we can expect different results with that truth. And to the scoffers who are scorning our faith and kind of trying to punch holes in our faith, we just want them to shut up. We want the truth to shut up their arguments. To those that are seeking, we want to say, listen up. We've got something that's sound, it's well-reasoned, it's well thought through. And to those who are fainting in our faith, that are dealing with doubts, remember we want to move them from blind faith to biblical faith. And we do that by shoring up those doubts, exploring those doubts. And apologetics will help to shore up those doubts. Jack, do you have a question?
Yesterday, as we were doing open air, we had two young ladies come up, actually right in the middle of open air, begin shouting, posing questions to us. And I started to answer their question, thought that wasn't going to do any good, and went back to preaching. But and Joe spoke to them. But after I finished, we had these two girls here. One was a scoffer, and the other was, I would say, seeking. Church of Christ background, baptismal regeneration, wasn't saved but knew the gospel. We spent about 20 minutes with them using these kinds of things.
Right.
And at the end, both of them went away very quiet and very reflective.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the way we defended. One girl said, there is no God, there's no nothing. The other girl, said, why just one religion? Why is only one right? And we spent about 20 minutes defending the faith. And it was just interesting that as we quieted them down and shared Christ with them because we love them, God loves them, it was just interesting when they left. I think we had, one did shut up, and the other, I do believe, was really closer to Christ than she'd ever been.
She was listening.
She was listening.
And dealing with it. That's good. That's good. And that's exactly, anyone else, it's exactly what we want. And really we need to integrate ourselves so that this isn't just a class we attend on Sunday morning, but it's a attitude and a way of life. And so that when we hear someone speaking falsehoods, that we can, it doesn't mean you have to go up and run and jab your finger in their eye. But you have to, if you just calmly and politely say, well, that's not true, and you give a short little defense, I think that's all that we're called to do. And if they want to engage you, then go from there. But I'm not saying you have to, see every scoffer and make them a believer. We'd like that, but I don't know that we have the power to do that on our own. All right, so we talked about the blind faith, biblical faith, and blind faith, we said was just faith without any reason, blindly accepting without anything to back us up on. And we said that there's plenty of evidence that God uses evidence in the Bible. And we talked about different evidences and signs in different places that God has done things so that a certain people or group of people may know, may believe, may have proof. And then we started last week kind of with a study on different tools of the trade, is what we called it. We talked about definitions. When someone makes a truth claim, that truth claim could be true, or it could fall into a contradiction. We could classify it as a contradiction, something that's against itself. It could be a paradox, something that seems to be a contradiction, but when we examine it closer, it actually appears to be true. Or it could be a mystery. Could be something that we hold on as true, two different things we hold on as true, and kind of together they form some type of contradiction. We don't want to give up that both are true, so we don't know how. We want to eventually turn it into a paradox, right? We want to move from mystery to paradox if it's in our faith, and some things we just won't know. Does that make sense? And then we talked about different worldviews. What glasses you were looking through. We talked about Christianity, atheism. So what are some of the tenets of atheism as a review? There is no God's the main one. And then from that you get some derivatives. If there's no God, then everything must have come by chance. The mechanism which most people believe that came through is evolution. And everything we see here is just random processes. We talked about New Age. What did we say New Age was? That type of belief system?
God in everything in...
God's everywhere. I can worship God by preserving a tree. I want to, have good karma, that kind of stuff. Reincarnation, the Force. And then we said moral relativism is kind of like a sub-worldview that fits under both atheism and New Age. And in moral relativism, really there is no right or wrong. It really depends on the situation. Remember we had blind justice there, and for moral relativism to work, she's got to look at the scales and kind of look at what's going on. She can't just blindly judge, is it right or is it wrong? So then we went from there to faulty arguments. And so I'm going to pick up right at the beginning of faulty arguments. I know that we covered some of these again, but just as a review, I know sometimes you need to kind of see these a couple of times to help them sink in. So faulty arguments. And we asked the question, why is examining what are faulty arguments, why is that important to apologetics? Anyone remember what our question? Right, we want to find weak points in their arguments. Do we want to find weak points in our arguments? Yeah. We want to be able to attack their arguments and defend our arguments, right? And then we ask, who's guilty of making faulty arguments? All of us are. We're all guilty, both on the Christian side and the opposing worldviews. We are humans, and so sometimes we will make faulty arguments. So the first one we said was peer pressure. This is a common one. It's just arguing that you should agree to a certain idea because of the number of other people that are agreeing to the idea. Not really dealing with whether the idea is true or false or has any merit. It's just that if you want to be with everyone else, then you're going to agree with them. An example of a faulty argument based on peer pressure is all educated people know that there is no God. So if you want to be in the group of people that are considered educated, then you're going to have to believe that there is no God. So that is a faulty argument. Peer pressure. Also known as ad populum. And you may see these other terms for these faulty arguments other places. And I'll talk about some places you may see those here in a minute. So we ask, what is this really saying? Does it even deal with whether there's a God or not? No, it doesn't. It just is an argument based on peer pressure.